It's Halloween, Tuesday, October 31st. It is time for Mike Reads the Journal. We're going to do markets very briefly, but I have my monthly note coming out Thursday where I'm going to go into this in depth. Technically up on the S&P 500 today. Had a fantastic day yesterday. It was still down almost 2% for the week, up by 8.5% for the year. So pretty well off the highs that we saw back in July. But if you want to know more about the markets, tune in on Thursday when we do the monthly note. First article is this, never mind the 1%. Only 2 articles today because they're kind of tied together and they're a little bit longer. So mini millionaires are where wealth is growing fastest. So this is talking about how kind of the fastest wealth segment in America that's growing is kind of upper middle class homeowners, typically college educated, that are saving for retirement as well. Now, this is talking about net worth, which will include real estate, and a lot of this, right? If they're talking about 50-year-olds, they probably bought their homes in their late 20s, maybe for $100,000, and they're worth like $70,000 to $800,000 now due to real estate market growth. But they are also saving for retirement. And this ties in very much to an old seminar I actually had called The New Middle Class, which I will link below. That's a much older video. The production value isn't quite where it is today, but very good content around how the middle class is growing to a segment that is starting to deal with generational wealth. Because if you are self-financing your own 20 to 30-year retirement from 60s to 90s, then you have no choice but to start dealing with generational wealth things. And this is going to tie into the next article in just a minute, but the next article is about fiduciary standards being reintroduced effectively by the Labor Department, because they already tried to do this once. And I think it got overruled in court or something, but they're coming back at it to reduce fiduciary standards, specifically around 401ks to IRA rollovers. To just quickly set the record, for my opinion, I think they should go one step further and put the fiduciary standard on virtually every client-facing interaction. There's problems with that. For one thing, that would need to be done by the SEC and FINRA, which is not the Labor Department. There's this whole thing about the SEC and FINRA effectively fighting with the Labor Department because they think they're doing their job. But of course, the Labor Department doesn't think that they're doing their job. So you're kind of overstepping them. This fiduciary standard has become the hot button item. I will tell you, it's the number one question I get from like prospects. Somebody calls and says, "Hey, my friend recommended I come see you. Before I come in, are you a fiduciary?" I cringe at that question, not because I don't have the right answer, which is yes, because it's the wrong question, right? The simple truth is if you are legally required to act in the client's best interest, and if you can prove to regulators that you are acting in the client's best interest, and whether you are actually acting in the client's best interest, are 3 entirely different things. And I think these regulations, although well-meant and well-focused, do not come with enough on the enforcement side. Now, maybe I don't see that enforcement because if you read through this article, what they're really talking about, in my opinion, is annuities, specifically retirement annuities that traditionally have had very high payouts for financial advisors and are less than stellar investments, is how I'll politically put it. And I have seen an improvement in the annuity industry over the last 10 years as they have continued to kind of regulate. So maybe the enforcement is happening at a level that I don't see, but so the industry is getting better. So the fiduciary standard, I think, is very important throughout the industry, but it's not the question you should be asking financial advisors. I will eventually do a video on like what you should be looking for if you're looking for a financial advisor. But are they a fiduciary? They're all going to answer yes, and that's not going to that should not give you some internally good feeling that they're going to do a good job for you. So, however, the interesting thing I want to talk about is that about 7 to 8 years ago, when a lot of these regulations started, they introduced a rule that, just to summarize very quickly, effectively got rid of all sales incentives, which was something that should have been attacked years before that and was very good regulations that come to the industry. But a very unintended consequence of that was that it virtually gutted new advisor programs throughout the industry. Companies like LPL, Waddell and Reed, back when they existed, Raymond James, Edward Jones, had these programs to help get advisors into the industry. And that regulation shut all of that down unintentionally, in my opinion, very unintentionally. And we now live in this financial advisor world where no one gets into the industry It's not a sexy thing for like people coming out of business school or finance to want to get into personal finance. It's not the exciting thing because the simple truth is what we do has very little to do with investments. It's very much more dealing with clients where, kind of the psychology of wealth and things along those lines, which is not what kids go to school for, which is not, exciting for them. So the supply of financial advisors come to almost zero. And the need for them has come down dramatically, right? Because access to good investments is so much easier these days than it was, say, 30 years ago. But we have this whole section of America that is hitting a new wealth spectrum, that they are starting to deal with generational wealth type issues. And generational wealth issues and planning for your retirement can often are two like totally different things, and yet they are merging together. And what you might do to plan for your own retirement and what you might do to optimize generational wealth can often be very different things, especially around tax avoidance, tax deferred accounts and things along those lines. So there is still an undeniably high need for good, high quality financial advisors in the world, and yet there are none coming in. I'm not going to blame it on the regulations. There's a lot of reasons why we are not getting enough good young financial advisors into the industry, but these two things are going to collide, right? The fact that there is a whole new generation of people, big, huge section of society that's going to start dealing with wealth issues that they did not classically deal with, and an industry that is having a hard time getting new advisors into it. The reason I'm using this article for that is because the industry, one of the pushbacks is that this is going to make it even harder to get new advisors into it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's a very good argument, right? Like, I think we can act at a fiduciary standard and find a way to get people to come into the industry. So that's really it. Monthly note coming out on Thursdays if you want to talk about the market. Otherwise, I hope this has been informative, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.